You won't believe how emotional the NBA can make you. From Isaiah Thomas leaving his heart out on the court after his sister's death to Kobe Bryant's tragic passing that shook the NBA world. These are 10 emotional moments that left NBA legends in tears. And we're kicking this off with IT playing his heart out in honor of his sister. The 2017 NBA season was one to remember for Thomas as he started the best basketball of his career. But unfortunately, disaster struck for the point guard as his sister, China Thomas, tragically passed away in a car crash during the playoffs. The accident happened a day before Boston was set to face the Chicago Bulls in the first round, but Thomas still went out there and dropped 33 points before eventually leading his team to the next round. But if you thought that was impressive, wait till you hear what he pulled off against the Washington Wizards. Game 2 of the series fell on what would have been his sister's 23rd birthday. But rather than letting the sadness consume him, he used his love for China to go out there and ball out. Thomas dropped a whopping 53 points, allowing Boston to take a 2-0 series lead against the Wizards. As he told reporters after the game, China wouldn't have wanted him to stop, so he just kept going in honor of her. It was beautiful seeing IT paying tribute to his sister. But considering how close they were, that was expected. What wasn't expected, though, was the NBA paying tribute to Isaiah Austin. During the 2014 NBA draft, Adam Silver chose to take some time out and honor the former athlete. You see, Isaiah was one of the best college prospects in 2014, and he went off to Baylor. But his basketball dreams were shattered when he was diagnosed with Marfan syndrome. And the worst part was that he found out a few days before the draft. But Silver wasn't gonna let him go out without fulfilling his dream of being drafted. So he made a special announcement and said, the NBA selects Isaiah Austin.
Continue tonight. I want to take a moment to recognize Baylor center Isaiah Austin. He is one of the nation's best collegiate players and was expected to be picked tonight before the discovery just a few days ago that he had a genetic disorder called Marfan syndrome and is no longer able to play competitive basketball.
And once they met on stage, Adam told Austin that he'd forever be part of the NBA family. And 7 years later, he witnessed an even more emotional moment when Silver honored Terrence Clarke at the 2021 NBA draft. Clarke was an All-American high school basketball star, but just 3 months before draft night, he lost his life in a terrible car crash. Once again, the NBA commissioner came in clutch and announced that Terrence will always be part of the NBA family. Before calling on Clarke's relatives on stage, he announced that the NBA selects Terrence Clarke. But now it's time to move away from the tragic moments to the magical ones, sort of like Curry's 2022 playoff run. After the 2019 season, Golden State went from hero to zero overnight. After 2 long years full of hardships, the Warriors finally got back on top in the 2022 season. Not only were the Warriors a better team now, but they were healthy as they got Klay Thompson back. Chef Curry went ballistic in the playoffs and especially the finals, leading Golden State to the finish line, while earning his first finals MVP. As soon as the final buzzer sounded, Steph burst into tears because of all the adversity he and his squad had to deal with. And if you're a Curry fan, I'm positive you were on the verge of tears too. Though if you're more of a Kevin Durant guy, then his MVP speech must have had you in the feels. After balling out in the 2014 season, the Slim Reaper earned himself the coveted MVP award. As you can imagine, it was an emotional moment for him, but when Durant gave his speech, he couldn't help but be overcome with emotion when talking about the vital role his mom played in his success. KD let out a few tears while highlighting how many sacrifices his mom made, before telling her, "You the real MVP." And since then, it's been one of the most famous quotes in league history. But it can't beat the raw emotion that LeBron felt after the 2016 Finals. After going down 3-1 in the NBA Finals, all odds were stacked against the King. He was tasked with a job that no one had ever done, to come back from a 3-1 deficit. But when you're LeBron, anything is possible. James went beast mode for 3 straight games, and with some help from Kyrie Irving, Cleveland did the unthinkable. Once the final buzzer sounded, LeBron fell to the floor and cried his heart out. Once he spoke to reporters, he yelled out, "Cleveland, this is for you." It was an emotional, yet magical moment. which is something I can also say about Derrick Rose's 50-point game. D Rose was a baller since day one, as he became the youngest MVP in league history. But once he got injured in 2012, he hasn't been the same. He went from being a star to not even being an all-star. But then on the 1st of November 2018, Rose treated the NBA world to a vintage game, dropping a staggering 50 points, 6 assists, and 2 steals. Not to mention the Timberwolves won the game thanks to his efforts, especially his game-saving block. His squad, as well as the fans in attendance, went wild when D Rose reached the 50-point mark. While everyone on social media was over the moon, he started crying as soon as the game ended, and while talking to Doris Burke, you could hear that the man was in his feelings big time. But now it's time to shift our focus back to the tragic moments. Like the time John Wall dedicated his performance to Mia. Mia was a young cancer patient who Wall became close to, as she was a big fan, and sadly her condition kept getting worse, resulting in her losing her life just one day before Wall was set to play the Celtics. He was obviously incredibly saddened to hear of her passing, but he still went out there and dropped 26 points and 17 assists like it was nothing. Immediately after the game, he told a reporter that it was an emotional game for him, but that he dedicated it entirely to Mia. He couldn't even complete the post-game interview because he burst into tears and went back to the locker room. But hey, there's no shame in crying. I mean, even Michael Jordan did after the 1996 finals. Jordan was super close to his dad, so when he was murdered in 1993, Mike was obviously heartbroken. But 3 years later, he had a chance to do his dad proud once more on Father's Day. Chicago was up 3-2 against the Supersonics in the finals, and MJ made sure to lead his team to victory in honor of his dad. When Jordan went to the locker room, he collapsed to the floor and cried for his father, as he would have loved to have shared the moment with him in person. It was a moment that'll never be forgotten. But when it comes to the most emotional moment of all time, it has to be the passing of Kobe Bryant. The 2020 season saw LeBron killing it for the Lakers, and he even passed Kobe on the all-time scoring list in January 2020. But just one day after that, the NBA world was left devastated when they learned that the Black Mamba, along with his daughter and 7 other people, lost their lives in a tragic helicopter crash. Nobody believed the news, but once it was official, fans, players, and coaches were distraught. They couldn't help but cry their hearts out as they lost a legend of the game. Teams all around the league honored the 5-time champ by starting off their games with 24-second violations, while the NBA altered their All-Star game to pay tribute to the legend. While some of the moments in this video might bring out happy tears, a lot of them are sure to bring out tears of sadness. But at times it's important to shed light on the not-so-happy times in life, because it helps put things into perspective. On that note, we'll wrap up today's video. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to Hoopers, because there'll be more awesome videos coming every week.